Hey guys, LootWizard here, and I got a quick video on the new class, the Doomsayer Class. It is a demon class, and this is the last class, as far as I know, that's coming into the game, unless they start doing, releasing classes for the factions in the underworld. Because as it is now, every class that's been released has been linked to one of the kingdoms, and yeah, so well, I don't know in the future. Maybe they'll add more. And one can make an argument that there's already too many classes in the game, but I would like to see at least 3 more classes because we so far do not have a class for constructs, we don't have a class for elementals, and we don't have a class for the war gear, I think is how those troops types are called. And we did get some guardians that are pretty good for the war gear troop type, but we don't have a class for it, so it's kind of disappointing. Other than that, let's get right into this class. Doomsayer, let's go check out its traits and talents first, and then we'll go and see what's going on with the class event. So, looks like here it says the first trait, all enemies lose 2 random skill points. And then the middle one, Omen of Dark, explode a purple gem at the start of battle. So you got a little tiny bit of start of mana generation there, but you do need 10 of these arcane trait stones in order to unlock that. It's pretty steep for newer players, and you're not going to get a really crazy benefit out of that second one. The third one, there's a 25% chance to deathmark a random enemy when matching 4 or more gems. Now, that's, Deathmark is one of those things where I always hate being Deathmarked because as long as you have that Deathmark, and by the way, the Deathmark symbol, if you have it on your troop or if it's on an enemy troop, is 2 scythes crossing each other and they're like blinking. So that's the Deathmark sign. And maybe once we do a class team here, I'll use a weapon that does Deathmark so you can see what that looks like. But the 25% chance to do that on a 4 or 5 match, that means you're probably going to do a lot of death marks on the enemy. And the only thing that I think is immune to death mark is Bless. So if a enemy troop is blessed, it probably won't get death marked. And one of the things that works really well with death mark is curses. So if you can curse an enemy, it keeps that 10% chance, because what there is when you deathmark an enemy, there's an increasing, or it's a decreasing chance of the deathmark actually working on the enemy per turn until it gets cleansed. So if it doesn't deathmark them early on, the chances of them getting a deathmark, once it procs, it's going to do lethal damage. Okay, so it doesn't matter how much health, armor, and whatever the enemy has. If that deathmark procs, that enemy will just poof, die. So, but there is a decreasing chance of it actually working, I believe, as time goes on until that troop gets cleansed of it, which can happen. So if you do use a curse on that enemy that's deathmarked, it'll keep that chance as high as possible and keep that troop deathmarked. At least that's, in my experience, how I've seen it work. Someone probably can correct me in the comment section below if I'm wrong about that. That's just how I've experienced the game and curses combined with death marks. So if you're using a lot of curses, this death mark here might be pretty good. And as if you have a converter troop, that converts one color to another color, then this Doom Sight thing here would work better. So it does take 16 trait stones from the red and purple arcane stones here, and all you got to do is click on this arcane stone and you can see which kingdoms drop these. So Galvania and Blighted Lands are going to drop this trait stone. So if you do want to farm those, you got to go to those 2 kingdoms there and do those explore battles. I'm just going to go ahead and unlock this because I have enough saved up. And another great way to get those arcane trait stones is every week the new troop in the glory shop, you can buy arcane stones for glory. Okay, moving on to the talent tree here. Let's see what's going on. Looks like we have some like healing stuff here as well. That's interesting. So at the first one here, we have Demonic Rage. All demons gain 1 attack. Now, it would be nice if this was gain 1 attack every single turn, but I guess that would be asking too much. But that's only going to give all of your demon troops 1 attack. That's it. It's just going to boost it by 1. Resilience, gain 8 life. That's always nice to have. It gives you a little bit more survivability. Reaper, gain 2 magic of using a scythe. So, and the class weapon for this troop, or this hero class, is a scythe. So, that seems to work really well with that, I suppose. Gain 2 magic. I mean, you're gonna want to gain as much magic as possible in this game, because that's where all of your spell damage is really coming from. At level 5, you get Dark Hunger, steal 1 life from the first enemy when matching purple gems. Purification, cleanse yourself on a 4 or 5 match. Chill of Death, freeze an enemy. When an enemy dies, freeze another random enemy. Purification is really good because if your hero class gets frozen, you will not get an extra turn if you do 4 or 5 matches with a color for your weapon that you're using. So Purification looks like pretty strong here. Then we have Plague Bearer at 10. Disease a random enemy on 4 or 5 matches. That's always nice, especially when you're using the King Gobtroffle troops, because those generate more mana based on diseased enemies. Fast Healing, we have Recover 2 life every turn. So that's Recover. You're not going to gain life. So this talent won't work until you lose life on your hero. But it's still nice to have that extra 2 life every turn. And then gain 1 soul every turn. So this is probably going to be more useful for your low level people that don't have your Pharaoh's Ra, you don't have your Dragon Soul, you don't have like a really great soul farming team yet. 1 soul every turn. It's something there to get some of those souls early on in the game. Level 20, we have Spawn of Hell, 50% chance to summon a hell spawn when an enemy dies. So yeah, that's pretty high chance, 50% chance. So that could be useful for surviving battles. Fey Vengeance, Fairy Fire a random enemy when an ally dies. And Fairy Fire will do an extra 50% spell damage to enemies that are Fairy Fired. Now, I don't think this is really that strong, because you do have to... It's going to happen when an ally dies, so it's not really going to work too well for you, and unless your team is dying. Create an ice storm at the start of battle. Icy Veil, that's always nice, because what happens here is you're going to have more blue gems falling down on the board with an ice storm for like 8 turns. And if you have a troop that can explode the board like right away at the beginning of the battle, like Leprechaun, then you're going to almost guarantee a lot of blue mana falling down on the board. So that can work good with some teams. Then we have at level 40, Sudden Doom. Create a Doom Storm at the start of the battle. So that's with that. A Doom Storm means that there's going to be more Doom Skulls falling down on the board, and that can be great with certain troops like maybe Glaceon, because if you have a Doom Storm going while you use Glaceon, like, you're going to have so many more Doom Skulls falling down on the board. It's going to be crazy. Alright, then we have Healing Herb, gain 4 life when matching green gems. So unlike Fast Healing up here, Recover 2 life, Healing Herb will allow you to gain life over and above your maximum starting life. Then we have Life Siphon, steal 2 life from the first enemy on 4 or 5 gem matches. This would work well too if you're using a converter. So you have that 25% chance, if you unlock its trait, to generate a death mark on enemies. 25% chance to do that if you have a 4 or 5 match. And then here you have Life Siphon. So you might want to build a team around those converters so that you can death mark and steal life at the same time. Now at level 70 we have Delirium, gain 2 magic and attack when you take damage to life. So that might be actually pretty good if you are, if your hero is going to be taking some kind of damage. The Delirium combined with Healing Herb and Fast Healing there might be a pretty good combination. Then also we have Nature's Will, gain a bonus green mana from green gem matches. Then we have Swift Curse, death mark a random enemy at the start of the battle. So if you really want to get your death mark on, if you get down here to 70, boom, you can get that death mark going. Level 100, we have Chaos Wave. All enemies lose 1 point on a random skill when I match skulls. And then we have Eternal Summer. All Fey allies gain 2 life every turn. Okay, now, this is one thing about some of these classes when you get to level 100, and I've never really understood why the devs do this, because this is a demon class, and yet at level 100, I can select a trait that allows all Fey to start or to gain 2 life every turn. You know, the logic tells me that since this is a demon class, that one of these final traits should be all demon allies should gain 2 life every turn, right? Like, I don't know. That's just me. You know, my logical brain really doesn't doesn't understand why this class is giving bonus stats to other troop types. I don't know. It's just me. All undead gain 2 armor and magic when an ally dies. That's Unholy Blessing, the final 100 talent there. And, you know, that again won't get you a whole lot of bonus stats because there's only so many of your allies that can die unless you have a troop that's summoning allies constantly and then they're constantly dying. You know, if you if you do that, there is a few demon troops that do summon, so it is a possibility that you could summon a troop, it dies, summon another troop, it dies, summon another troop, and it dies, and you can end up gaining, you know, an extra, like, 6 magic out of that. But that's a lot of, that's just a lot of messing around and, you know, bad luck in order to get that little bit of magic boost there from that. So, as far as I'm concerned, the best, the best 100 level talents here is going to be Chaos Wave, in my opinion. That's the best one. Or Eternal Summer if you want to do the weird thing and just have all 4 Fey or 3 Fey troops with this one demon class. You know, if that's what you want to do, and then, you know, then that one's probably second to Chaos Wave. But yeah, it's not a bad, not really a bad class. One thing I do want to look at right after we look at, well, actually just take a look at it first here. Let's go to the classes. I'm going to back out of all this. Let's go to the classes because there is another demon class here called the Diabolist. So they're both demon classes. So let's go in and compare the Diabolist really quick with it and see, you know, which one is probably stronger. So for the traits, we have same thing for the first one, and then we have a different one. Jinx here, have enemy gem masteries. And then 25% chance to summon a nightmare when an ally casts a spell. So this is more of kind of like a survival thing. So if you have an open spot and you're casting spells, you have that 25% chance to just summon a nightmare. Which isn't, it doesn't really, a nightmare is like just a simple like red generating troop. So it's not going to do any crazy damage for you. But it's just kind of like popping up an extra troop just to kind of like help you survive the battle. So there's that. That 25% chance of summoning a troop as opposed to the 25% chance of the death mark. Now, if we go in here and we look at the talents, I'm not going to read every single one. We're just gonna scan through them really quick here just to get kind of like a comparison. So it does have Soul Caller just like the other one had, 1 soul every turn. It did have Plague Bearer to disease. It just looks like this one focuses on fire instead of the healing. So it looks like this one has it has Icy Veil, Life Siphon, Unholy Blessing, Swift Curse. So it has all of the curse ones, and it has all the demon ones here of Stealing Life, Diseasing, Spawn, Delirium, Chaos Wave. It has all those. The only thing different about the Diabolist is that it has a whole trait or talent line here focusing on fire stuff as opposed to the other one which deals with healing. But the fire one, create a firestorm, start a battle, gift to fire, bonus to red, and then finally Fireblade. So Fireblade will deal triple skull damage to burning enemies. And that's definitely probably going to be more consistently powerful than Death Marking. So in the long run, I think Diabolist is probably better for like attack. Has more attack capabilities. But the Doomsayer has the Death Mark, which is probably going to balance it out. with the Diabolist. It'll be a little more random, but I think that you can use a converter to get the 4 or 5 gem matches, and you're going to get pretty consistent death marks. And eventually one of those death marks is going to save your butt in a really tough battle. It's just going to eliminate some troop or some hero class that you're like, dude, that was the one that was going to, beat me, and it would help you. So, plus this one has the healing thing, so it's a little more defensive, and then it's got the death marks going for it. So, I don't know. I think these two classes are probably about equal. They have their own strengths and their own weaknesses. So, here's the class weapon for the Doomsayer. What it is a Doomskull converter, which these weapons are generally pretty powerful. So you will deal a spell damage to all enemies. For me, it says 16 damage to all enemies, and then it will convert yellow gems to Doomskulls. Now, we do have a Doom weapon that does something very similar to this, but is actually more powerful. So this weapon is basically a weaker version of the Doomed Scythe. And if I go to my weapons really quick here, and we take a look at, I actually have a demon team set up somewhere in here. All demons. And let's take the weapon and just put it in there real quick. Not the class weapon, but the other doomed weapon. Hang on here. I know it's all purple. There it is. Doom Scythe. So, this is a Doom weapon, and it does the same thing, but it's way more powerful. So, if you have a chance to get the Doomed weapon version, that's the one you're going to want to use every single time as opposed to the class weapon. The only difference is the class weapon has a 14 mana cost, whereas this one has an 18 mana cost. But this one does so much more damage, deals more spell damage here, and it has the tempering level. So if you do get the tempering level up to 10 like I have it, it's going to do a 44 damage for me, spell damage. Then on top of that, it will convert the yellow gems to Doomskulls, and then finally it will gain 3 mana for each purple enemy. So it does have potential to gain back purple mana and cut that cost of a second cast down quite a bit. So this is the better version, the Doom Scythe, but you do need to have the Doom event come around for purple in order to buy this in the shop, or sometimes it comes around in the Soul Forge, and then it's gonna cost you diamonds. So the class weapon is a much more affordable version, because as you can see here, you only need 250 wins, and then you will get this weapon. So when you consider that this weapon is very achievable for new players, this weapon probably in my list for new players will rank pretty high, because all you have to do, you could probably get this weapon by level before you reach even level 100 in the game. You just have to equip this class once you unlock it. And then you will need to do those 250 battles. Bam, now you got this weapon. Calling has 14 mana cost, and if you unlock a class that has half mana, you can have this thing start with 7 mana, and then you will be doing damage to all enemies, and you'll have this really big damage potential with converting yellow gems to Doomskulls. Now, one thing that I've thought about is when we have a class over here called the Stormcaller class, which if you have it fully traded, it will conjure a light storm. So you're going to have a lot of yellow falling down on the board. And this class right here might be a good class to use with the, what's this weapon called again? With the class weapon for the Doomsayer. Yeah, Sin's Harvest. Okay. This weapon might be really good to use with the Stormcaller class, simply because you're going to have all those yellow falling down on the board. The only problem would be, how do you get purple mana to fill it up? And so you have to, work that out. Now, it could work really good in a team where you're using something to enchant it with the Stormcaller class, and then that way you can still get the mana that you need for this class, and then bam, you can convert all those yellow gems to Doomskulls. Either that, or you can use it with a troop like the Alchemist troop, which will convert a certain color of gem into yellow gems, and that way you can get more yellow on the board, so then you can convert those to Doomskulls. So those are just some of my quick thoughts there on the class and its weapon. As far as like a class team, I haven't even really started this event, but you probably will want to buy at least the first two because you'll get a potion of enchantment and a potion of explosion. And I would not recommend going up here and buying the weapon with your gems unless you are trying to level this class up as high as possible, because you're going to be getting a lot of extra class XP here and here and all the way up to here. So if you have like an extra 2,000, 3,000 gems to just blow on this and you want to get this class up to as high as possible, like level 70 or something, then you could go through and buy all these gems. But I don't really think the class is worth leveling that high that fast. It's not like it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be like the new crazy meta class to use. So I would just recommend buying the first two tiers here in the shop just so you can get those two potions there. And that should get you pretty far here because this is a full weekend event. So you should get new sigils every day. And you should get up to round 8 by the end of this weekend on Sunday. As far as troops here, not all of you might have some of these, but Wrath is a legendary troop for this kingdom, and that's absolutely amazing here at the front, especially if you have it fully traded, because you're going to be able to explode 2 random gems when you deal skull damage. And then, you know, there isn't really a whole lot of fantastic troops for this kingdom. Very limited troops here, so you're just going to have to kind of hodgepodge a few of these things together. And you don't have to use any doomed weapon for this. Any weapon that you have that does damage to all enemies, if you just go in here and you look at whatever weapons you have available, you know, you could use Dawnbringer if you have that, but if you don't, you can just use something like Creeping Death, or you know, Essence of Evil even is pretty good. Fiendfire is good. Orb of Winter does damage to all enemies. You know, you got just look at your weapons, and worst case scenario, you could use Mang. Everybody's got Mang, so you could use Mang in there as well. So yeah, that should be a pretty easy little class event to go through and get that final orb that's in the rewards. So that's pretty much my thoughts on the new class, guys, and I'll end the video here. So hopefully that was informative, and thanks for watching as always, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.